Hello, welcome to the interview here on France 24. Well, it's been about 2 years since a wave of revolt swept across the Arab world, toppling dictators and changing the political map as we know it. Yet today, almost wherever you look across the region, whether it's Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, the euphoria of that moment has mostly given way to varying degrees of despair, dismay, and disillusionment. And just about everywhere, hope has given way to economic hardship, and in some cases, hardline religious movements vying for more power. My guest today is Mathieu Guidère. You're a professor of Islamic Studies at the University of Toulouse. You also are a specialist on a lot of the radical networks that we've seen emerging across this region. And I want to begin with a really simple question, because you have better insights than me and most of our viewers out there on this. You look at the Arab Spring, was it too early to call it an Arab Spring? These are unfinished revolutions. There were a lot of hopes in them, and today it's really hard to find almost anything positive that has come of it.
Yeah, actually, when we look to the other revolutions that have been in Western world, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, or the American Revolution, what happened is, on the long term, the result was almost very positive for these countries, and because it came with wealthness, with liberty, with democracy, and with positive values almost everywhere. The problem with the Arab world today is that these revolutions came with conservative powers and with Islamist parties that have a different agenda than the democratic countries and democratic powers now. And also because people there were expecting for an immediate change in these countries to change everything thanks to the revolution. Whereas on the ground, the countries were experiencing hard difficulties in the economic, social, political level. So they cannot change their country in one day.
You can't change it in one day. However, when you think back, we remember all those revolutionaries, especially in Tahrir Square in Egypt. Young, full of energy, full of a lot of euphoria and drive. And today, where are they? They seem to have been either totally abandoned or the revolution's been stolen from them.
Yeah, actually, that's what they say. They say the revolution have been stolen from us. And the problem is the political process, the democratic process that have been going there have made these people a minority compared to the Islamists. And we discovered with them that they were a minority in their country. So most of these young people, some of them has moved to anarchic groups like Black Bloc in Egypt. Some of others have moved to radical movements in Libya or in Tunisia. And some of them are so
disillusioned.
Yeah, disillusioned by this movement that now they think they will never have anything from these revolutions.
Is there an irony here? Because are they perhaps just coming up face to face with the reality of their country, the demographic realities of their country, and the religious reality?
Yeah, obviously they discover themselves where are the balance of powers there, what are the powers, the dominating powers, and what are the dominating conservative parties in their country, and they cannot accept it. The problem with this is that these political parties has no democratic experience and having the conception of the democracy, accepting the life of the others, even if it is different.
Different from there. So even the young revolutionaries who drove these Arab Springs, they don't have that democratic instinct in them. They have to learn it as well.
This is the most difficulty now for these countries, since they don't have the democratic experience and they haven't experienced it to respect the other choice, even when you are minority, to respect the other's liberty, even when you are majority. This makes a lot of struggling, a lot of fights between them, a lot of violence, actually, which is going in the streets everywhere. And the political process is threatened by this lack of experience.
Lack of experience. And we're seeing this perhaps no more starkly at the moment than in Egypt. We heard the head of the military warned in recent days the state is in threat of collapse. Do you think it will come to that?
The problem is, it's ironic in Egypt that the military are now the person who guaranteed the revolution, whereas the revolution actually came against the military regime, since Mubarak was a general. After all, he's from the army, and it was the army who was leading the country since 1952. So it's some kind of irony now to hear the military power in Egypt saying, I'm the guarantee of the constitution, and I'm fearing a collapse of the system. Actually, I don't think the system will collapse in Egypt.
You think Mohamed Morsi has the power to stay on, remain in power?
Yeah, he has the power because he has behind him a lot of people who are supporting him, Islamists also. The problem is about the violence, is about the settlement of violence there, and in the long term, and that people can think maybe that they can push each other to the battle and the struggle and can win. And this ideology, this
clashing culture, the culture of confrontation,
is not good for democracy. Democracy is the contrary of the clashing culture. Democracy is the culture of negotiation, of discussion, of debating before all. And the way it's moving in most of these countries for clashing culture is not a good sign for the future.
Not a good sign. I want to bring it to France's military operation now in Mali, which has been very much in the news, especially at France 24. Right now, we're at the phase where it seems the Islamist jihadists have been driven out of the bastions in the north, but they're not gone. And even François Hollande acknowledges that a tough fight remains. How tough a fight is that? How much staying power and resistance can the Islamists put up?
Actually, if you look to the map, you will see that since there is Islamic regimes now on the north, I mean in Egypt, in Libya, in Tunisia, in Morocco, obviously there is no way to be an Islamic opposition to an Islamic regime. So all these jihadists, Islamist radicals, are going south to regimes who are in Muslim countries, such as Mali, and they are opposing the government who is not yet an Islamic regime. So this is also the consequence of the Arab Spring too. So what's happening now is that we are fighting in one place a general trend which is going in all these countries, and it began in North Africa and
in Libya,
now in Libya, and then it's going down the south and down the Sahel. So the fight will not end up now, and since the area is desert, the desert is huge in this country, and it depends absolutely on the population, on the people, if they adopt or not all these jihadists, if they adopt or not the agenda of these people.
This is a very interesting question. We saw pictures over the weekend of François Hollande visiting Mali, Timbuktu, then Bamako, cheering Malians everywhere. Thank you, France. Thank you, Savior François Hollande. Do they represent the way most of the Malian population feel?
No, actually, they don't represent the majority of Malian people, because Mali is a patchwork, is a melting pot of ethnic, black ethnics in the south, and you have Tuareg in the north and Arabs. So it's normal that you have black people in the north ethnic who are welcoming François Hollande, but these are not the majority of the people of the north. We would be more confident if there were Tuareg welcoming François Hollande, if there were Arabs too welcoming him in the north. And this is the problem of all these countries who are made of artificials in their map, in their frontiers, whereas the constitution of the people is very different.
And so pretty much wherever you look throughout this region, especially the Sahel, south of the Sahara, deep ethnic divisions, which you think will remain.
Yes, the deep ethnic divisions are in the same country, within Mali, and it is also with the other countries which are around, like Niger, like Burkina Faso, Senegal, and Libya. So you haven't the same ethnic in all these countries. So if you make the ethnic of the south dominate those of the north, you will have a long-lasting problem. And if you make intervening ethnics from the surrounding countries, which are different from those who are in the country, you have a long-lasting problem too.
A very intractable problem, it seems. Finally and briefly, in the end, You look at the economies of many of these countries, they are in very bad condition. Tunisia being one of them. Employment up, debt, inflation, college graduates unable to get jobs. Is it the economy ultimately going to determine the future course of the governments in these countries?
Actually, it's unlucky for these countries and for this Arab Spring. It happened in the worst economic crisis in the world. So they are now bearing two problems. The internal problems, their internal social, economic, and political problems, and at the same time, they are bearing the most important economic crisis in the world. So it will be really very hard for them to get out of this difficult situation now.
I wish we could leave it on a more positive note. It seems that those countries...
The more positive note is that the revolution happened in these countries, which was absolutely
a revolution
unexpected.
Better than no revolution,
Exactly.
But an unfinished revolution. Mathieu Guidère, Professor Islamic Studies, University of Toulouse, thanks very much for sharing some of your insights on what is, by all means, a very complicated situation 2 years after the Arab Spring uprisings. Thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for watching the interview here on France 24.